all the panelists of the second panel up here, please.
Really quickly, I want to jump in and thank all of our professors, all of our second graders for dealing with us.
Yes.
And you're awesome.
We have one last round of applause for our sixth. So as I said in the panel, the previous panel, a question, a comment, a reaction, anything that you would like to say. We have quite a bit of time to chat back there. And we are recording this, so we do need to use the microphone.
Hi, thanks guys, and congratulations to you all, especially from the group as well before. Excuse me. So my question is actually for Taylor. I enjoyed your presentation, but I have a question. As some people are aware, Amber Rose and Black China are also previous exotic dancers. So would you say, assumingly so, Cardi B is more respected because she went into music rather than the other two who did not pursue something along that fame route?
Hi, great question. You know, to a certain or lesser degree, I would say that I think people view her as more valid, Cardi B, because she's been able to achieve such esteem in the music industry, and she's actually legit. She actually has real talent. Amber Rose, I think she became a little bit more valid with her involvement in the Me Too movement, as well as creating, what is it, slut shaming? I think it's called. Right. And Black China, she really kind of rose to fame because she was a video vixen and a former stripper, and because of men she dated. So I would definitely say that I agree. Yes, Cardi B is definitely much more valid because of what she's involved in with music.
I also have a question for Taylor. So, presentation kind of concerned me, quite honestly, as a sex worker, specifically because of how you framed explicitly kind of this vibe that stripping, which is obviously a form of sex work, is only kind of valid when it is framed as a hobby. You refer to the autonomy of feminist strippers, quote unquote, and simultaneously kind of stripped the autonomy of survival sex workers, of the people that you call exotic dancers. And I'm wondering, how can you, in working in this topic further, actually address whorephobia in both your own work and in the discourse surrounding what you're working in?
That's a great question. You know, I actually originally was going to touch upon whorephobia within my work, but I often found myself losing myself in that subject. So I guess I couldn't fully answer your question right now because, to be perfectly honest with you, I need to do further research in that area. I don't want to make it seem like I'm advocating for women to go into stripping or make it so one-sided, but I think I'd absolutely have to do more research, to be honest with you, because I'm too ignorant to that area of it. And it's so vast that I could have honestly written an entire paper on that. So yeah, that would be my answer to you. I need to educate myself. Oh, of course. Let's be genuine here.
Other questions, other comments? We got the quiet group.
Thank you very much for all of you who have talked previous and right now. This question is for Paola. I'm wondering if you're looking to further more discussions and outlooks into performance art around Latino, Chicano, Mexicano artists. I know that we've just lost one in the last 2 weeks. I'm wondering if this also presented a realm of you digging deeper to see what it means to be representational of Mexicano, Chicano, Latina, to also being in a art school itself, how this dialogue is going to further your information to look for more things or to discover more things. It was great that you showed this documentary piece. I'd love to know if you're planning to move further along with this research, and if you do, where would you like to start moving forward to?
Cool. Hi, Kyle. Thanks. The reason why I picked Guillermo Gomez Peña is not because I necessarily wanted to focus on performance art. It was because I just really love his work, and I'm not really... it's interesting that I picked performance art because I don't really... I'm not very much informed with it, but I do know that it has this sort of stigma that it's very sort of avant-garde and like too abstract to really understand it most of the time. And I wanted to defend Gomez Peña's work because a lot of his criticisms are that it's just this guy who's doing these absurd things like chugging a bottle of salsa, and you know, I wanted to acknowledge the fact that there is substance to that, and through this post-colonial discourse lens that I used, it helped me a lot with this project. I definitely knew that I wanted to do something within the post-colonial realm of things. As far as extending this project, I'm not really sure that I would stick to performance art, but definitely work by Latinx people, and this notion of strategic essentialism, sort of taking back these stereotypical notions and sort of portraying them in this like funny or comical way that most people would think is absurd, but is actually, I guess there's a deeper meaning than what's at face value. So yeah, thanks.
Hello. This isn't a question for anybody specifically, but I'm really curious to hear how folks went about choosing their research methodologies and like strategizing. Yeah, anybody.
Hi, Brian. I know you didn't come for me, but thanks for coming. I'm gonna pretend. So I took a Whiteness Studies class with Dr. Michelle Yates, and that really informed my methodology. And then looking at ethnography, I knew I wanted to do interviews because I wanted to see Dr. Ames Hawkins, and they were like, well, you don't, like, who are you going to interview? Like, you're just talking about white women, you just go like, pull them off the street, or like, what? So I decided to do the group I was part of. Yeah, and then just like looking for a source, a way I could do that with interviews that was short and sweet and didn't go through IRB, because oral history is like a huge project. So yeah.
I kind of touched on it in my presentation. I knew that gender and how that intersected with queerness was definitely where I wanted to spend this project. In terms of methodology, it was heavily influenced by queer theory with Dr. Estrick. And then, like I said, I kind of stumbled upon that video, so then going into video footage and social media analysis just sort of followed that discovery.
So I didn't really touch upon it in my presentation, but the video that I showed you all is by this documentarian Lauren Greenfield called Magic City, something. I can't remember right now. But really watching her documentary made me realize that I actually need to go to the strip club space. So that's primarily what I did, and I attempted to interview as many dancers as possible, and it was a trying, challenging experience. I first went to the Pink Monkey on Michigan Avenue and was told, no, you can't interview our dancers because you might be trying to shut us down or exploit them or whatever. So it was definitely a challenge getting the interviews. I also used videos from YouTube with different strippers from there to kind of transcribe their interviews to kind of grapple back and forth with what they were saying. So, yeah.
So I'm a literature concentration along with some of my other peers, and I wanted to tie in the novel Casting, which I read in Professor Speiger's class, who is also my second reader, and kind of apply it to modern day like silencing. I didn't want to really focus it. There is a huge racial portion in the Me Too movement, which I touch on in my paper, which goes into the Times photograph analysis of how there's sort of like this like separation of class, race within the actual movement. And so I, through like multiple drafts and lots of mental breakdowns and going into many people's offices, I was able to kind of tie them together last minute, which somehow worked out miraculously, like it always does.
So I'm not gonna lie, I just really want to talk about this movie. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I'll say it's also informed by my own identity. I identify as a non-binary queer person of color, first and foremost. And as me, I watch things with, a disidentificatory lens, things aren't made for marginalized people. They're marginalized to begin with, you know what I mean? So, like, looking at Hedwig and the Reentry with existentialism and queer theory and everything, it's just my favorite things combined. And, like, who doesn't want that?
Okay. Like most of the projects, I was sort of self-reflexive with this project. I always tell people that I didn't really feel like I was Mexican until I moved to Chicago, because I'm from a very small border town next to Mexico, and that's just, we are all Mexican, we are all Latinx, we are all this one metonymy of people. And then when I moved here, it was like, I don't know, I felt sort of different, and I would feel sort of like this exoticized notion, or like people, calling me Paula or Paola instead of Paola. And it wasn't until I took post-colonial studies with Carmelo that almost everything we read, I thought, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is great. I want to study this forever. And yeah, that's how it came about.
Real quickly, also, I want to hold space for the professor we've had through this entire semester. He can't be here right now due to a family emergency, but he's been with us this entire semester.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you all for the important work that you've already done and that you're continuing to do. Austin, I wanted you to know that all 3 of my family members and I are crying in the presentation. And Helen, I wanted to say thank you for giving me some language to speak about my own sexual abuse with people. So thank you. And Cassandra, I was wondering if you could talk more about colorblindness and how that relates to your project. Because I had an experience recently with that, and when you kept saying that phrase, it just made me more curious about it.
Sure. So there's a lot of studies in whiteness studies about colorblindness. Specifically, I was looking at Eduardo Bonilla Silva's studies, where he does interviews with white people about race. And so there's like this, it's called an ideological grammar. There's a language to colorblindness, wherein white people will put down people of color and enact systematic oppression individually by like not talking about race. So, you know, if a black woman applies for a job and the hiring manager says, well, she has a great resume, but there's just something about her, I don't know, it's the way she talks, you know, like something to do with like the way she speaks. So it's this very thinly veiled racism, and you see it a lot. Obviously, you used to see it a lot more before this election. I mean, it's still, the thing that's heightened now is just actual, like, you know, overt racism. But that colorblind racism has never gone away. And so what I looked at, I assumed, because I had done this, you know, these whiteness studies classes, I was like, oh, when I interview these people, they're gonna do this. Like, they're definitely gonna be colorblind racist. And when they were talking to me, like, granted, they're talking to another white woman in an interview about race, they didn't do that, but that doesn't mean that there aren't problems with the organization, which I highlight in my paper. So yeah.
Thanks.
Other comments, questions? Yes.
I just wanted to, Austin and Soren, thank you for, obviously there's a million to one issues with queer theory in the field and all that, but it was really nice to see non-binary and genderqueer experiences like dissected through the queer theory lens, and just, it's really nice to see those subjects approached more in cultural studies. Obviously that work has been done before, but every new piece of that is just great. This is just a comment, thanks.
Thanks.
Can I see that question, please?
We have a few minutes. Oh, sorry.
You were behind the column. I'm so sorry. All right.
Go ahead.
So I've got a question, and it really pertains to the bars and books issue. The question is, as a capitalistic society, do you see us promoting this industry? Or in other words, are we promoting all aspects of our incarceration industry such that it leads toward more profit-driven outcomes?
Absolutely. To give you an example, I am in charge of our adult book program, which means like sometimes adults send us requests and we can't serve people over 25, but we want to send them a book because, you know, envelopes are expensive, stamps are expensive, especially when you're making like cents to the, you know, to the hour. And I have to, despite the fact that I have, you know, like hundreds of books, well, not mine, they're not mine, but like we have hundreds of books in stock, right? Every time I send a book to an adult prison, I have to send it through Amazon because they're a vendor. So basically the thing is like they don't want people putting things inside the books, which they also check every book, even if it's from a vendor. So there's not a lot of ways that would happen. But yeah, it's basically, you know, it's a capitalist scheme to make even more money off folks and their families. So, you know, if you could get a used book, it's, you know, $2 or $3, but from Amazon it's 15 or 16. So that's just like a very small example of this. Yeah.
Sorry, keep moving. Any other questions?
Ooh, I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry, I made you run all the way up there just to come back.
Don't be afraid, you're not on television.
Well, we maybe are a little bit.
Oh, okay, I'll make this quick. Just curious, if you guys could like redo your project knowing that you worked on this for freaking ever, what would you stick with your original sort of thesis and approach, or would you have selected something different?
Well, that's an interesting question.
I feel like I don't even want to think about the wording. Like, what? I don't want to think about that question.
I mean, I think that's the beautiful and terrifying thing about cultural studies is that you can really look at anything, and there's so many things that need to be discussed, but sometimes just not enough time to do it. If I could redo it, I don't know if I would, because this is, I mean, I could talk about like agriculture, I don't know, but like, I could, but like, yeah, Yeah, sure, why not? Food, yeah? But like, I think for me personally, a project that's so close to me, my identity, and the people that matter to me is relevant to share.
I don't think that I would switch my project because this was also a personal growing experience for me to unpack some of the self-silencing that I feel within myself. So in a way it was like therapy and capstone in one.
Thank you, sister, for that. No, I wouldn't change it, absolutely not. This whole process has been hell. I mean, it's been beautiful, but no, I like that I chose Cardi B because she's happening in real time, as I stated before, and she's a trailblazer for women to come after her. So no, I would possibly do the process over again because now I know what mistakes, and what challenges are going to come my way possibly, but absolutely not. Glad it's over.
I think my answer is very similar to Soren, so this was a very personal project for me, so definitely not. In the process of just kind of exploring gender in and of itself before I got to the gender reveal portion, opened up a lot of other ideas, so I think that this project has inspired a lot more that I would have never thought or see myself doing in the future, and now I'm really interested in, so I wouldn't redo it, but I think that it's opened some more doors, so.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with y'all, and especially Austin's point that there's so much I can expand on because like people in books behind bars, aren't just white and black women. There's